Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Ali Raza Fahad and I welcome you to my channel. Today I will discuss the origin of Greek theatre. So let's start it. Origin of the word theatre. The modern word theatre comes from a Greek word theatron meaning seeing place. This is an image of the modern day theatre that has evolved throughout the ages. If we see how theatre began, then we will have to start from this very place that is called the threshing floor. Greek villages had a float round place where people used to bring grain and thresh it to separate grain from the outer husks at harvest time. This threshing floor made a good place for open air singing and dancing, and on special occasions villagers might gather to watch their young men singing and dancing. Then comes the city Dionysia that has a very crucial and important place or role in the beginning of or in the making or development of theatre. This is a painting of the Greek city, that ancient Greek city Dionysia. In the 6th BC, the Athenian ruler Pisistratus established the city Dionysia, a festival of entertainment held in the honor of god Dionysus. Art and drama were central to his religion, and its festivals were the initial driving force behind the development of theatre. Dionysus. Who was Dionysus? He was a god, Dionysus. This is his image. We can see him holding a cup of wine, having a crown of vine leaves over his head, a plate of grapes, and a staff in his hand. He is also known as Bacchus, as the Romans often called Dionysus Bacchus or Liber. Dionysus was the son of Zeus and his human mistress Semele, the only of the 12 Olympian gods to be born out of a mortal parent. He was killed, dismembered, and resurrected. This is very interesting to know, as there are so many tales about his killing and resurrection. One of the legends says that Semele was consumed by flames when she glimpsed Zeus without disguise in his godlike splendor. Zeus put her unborn infant in his thigh. When the time came for the child's birth, Zeus drew him forth again. Thus, Dionysus had a double birth. Later on, when Zeus' wife Hera came to know that the son of or the child of Semele and Zeus is still alive, she sent some titans to kill the baby. When he was just a baby, he was ripped to pieces by the titans as an act of revenge. Only his heart was saved. The tale of Dionysus being killed by the titans is symbolic of the death of the physical body and the survival of the internal spirit and soul. Dionysus was seen as a symbol of death and resurrection because he died in winter and was reborn in spring. And the corpse too die in winter and return in spring. Therefore, he is also known as the god of fertility and harvest and crops. Religious ceremonies reflected this attribute too. Lamenting mirrored God's death, rejoicing with wild dancing and singing mirrored God's resurrection. And this thing of lamenting and rejoicing, quite a fit basis for tragedy and comedy that came into existence later on. He was raised by satyrs and Maenads. Satyrs are a half man, half goat like imaginary creature, kind of symbol of the mysterious parts of nature and the wild. Satyrs are a little bit crazy, often oversexed, and they are very much fond of wine. Maenads are nymphs who we always see them when he was abroad. We always see god Dionysus accompanied by these two creatures. If we come to the personal attributes of God Dionysus, then we find he is always sitting or having an ivy wreath upon his head, as we have seen in the previous slide in the picture where he was sitting and having an ivy wreath over his head. Thyrsus is a kind of staff or spear tipped with an ornament like a pin cone, carried by Bacchus or god Dionysus and his followers. And the canthros. Canthros is a large two-handled goblet, described as he is often described as feminine, man womanish. And this aspect of his personality comes from the fact that Hermes, god Hermes, took the newborn infant Dionysus to Ino, sister of Semele and Athamas, and persuaded them to bring him up as a girl. Moreover, when god Dionysus went abroad, he was accompanied by Mosai, who were maidens that had received an unusually excellent education, and that by their songs and dancing and other talents in which they had been instructed, these maidens delighted the heart of the god. And we also know that there were more women worshippers than men in his religion. These are god Dionysus attributes images where we can see this ivy wreath, this canthros or tharsis, the staff, and the goblet, double-handled goblet. He was the god of wine, fertility, and ecstasy. This attribute comes from the fact that Dionysus was one of the Olympian gods who actually did not live on Mount Olympus but was constantly traveling around the world together with satyrs and Maenads in order to discover the secrets of winemaking. As the god of wine, Dionysus was credited with creating and teaching the art of winemaking. The idea that under the influence of wine, one could feel possessed by a greater power. Unlike the other gods, Dionysus was not only outside his believers but also within them. At these times, a man might be greater than himself and do works he otherwise could not. Wine is also or is a symbol of divine light that awakens and nourishes the soul, that enlightens one's inside. Grapes are symbols of fertility and abundance, and wine made from grapes is symbolic of love, friendship, and most important of all, transformation that we were discussing before. Being the god of fertility, he was closely linked with the crops and the harvest and the changing of the seasons. He loved traveling and family partying, family orgies. He used to arrange family orgies. Dionysus' teaching went against Apollo's teaching of restraint. Writers often contrast Dionysus with his half brother Apollo, where Apollo personifies the cerebral aspects of mankind. Dionysus represents the libido and gratification. He teaches of restraint, whereas Dionysus teaches about going wild and going beyond the limits. His divine mission was to eradicate all care and worry. His wine, music, and aesthetic dance free his followers from self-conscious fear and care and subvert the oppressive restraints of the powerful. Believed that he could liberate and inspire men and could endow men with divine creativity. Dionysus had the power to inspire and to create ecstasy, and his cult had special importance for art and literature. Dionysus thus came to be considered a patron of the arts. He is also known as the god of theatre. These are some other sculptors of the god Dionysus. You will always see him having these things around him. Festival of Dionysus. This festival is of a great importance not only in the history of Greek theatre but also in the history of Greek culture. It used to be held in late March, featured competitions in music, singing, dance, and poetry. The opening of the festival featured a grand procession with a wooden statue of Dionysus carried to the theatre of Dionysus, so God could observe the performances. Festival goers spent an entire week drinking wine, praising fertility, singing chants, and worshipping the phallus in order to praise Dionysus. 8th 7th CBC contests of choral dancing held at many festivals. These choral dancings were called dithyrambics. As the first day progressed, choruses of men and boys representing the 10 political tribes of Athens held dithyrambic competitions. These competitions were a part of worship to Dionysus, involving chants and dances in his honor. The day concluded with the sacrifice of a bull and a communal feast. Participants were regarded as sacred servants of Dionysus during the festival. A herald would announce the competing place, best performance, claimed prize. The most remarkable of all the winners was said to be a wandering bard named Thespis. His prize was a goat. The word tragedy translates literally as goat song, that comes from a Greek word tragos. This is a painting that shows god Dionysus surrounded by his worshippers. Now I will discuss the civic duty during the festival. It was every citizen's civic duty to attend the festival. It was kind of religious obligation for every citizen to be there. Public businesses not directly involved with the 6-day festival would shut down so that everyone could attend. The state provided fund for those who couldn't pay. Arrangements of the festival to pay for training and equipping of chorus lay in the hands of eponymous Akron, the Lord, and the Korogoi. Korogoi was a wealthy patron wishing to honor the gods pays for the cost of a production. This is a precursor to the modern day word producer. Both men and women that attended could vote on their favorite play. 3 playwrights would write tragedies and compete each year to claim a prize. The prizes of the time were used to be wreaths, crown of ivy, bull, goat, name carved in marble. A playwright had to write plays, compose music, direct, supervise rehearsals, act, assign actors, chorus, musician, etc. The dramatists were not subject to any restrictions. Topics could range from mythology to recent history. No priestly control were there. These plays during or these competitions during the festival were a part of Athenian collective consciousness. This was a kind of service, served as a social safety valve. After service, worshippers left with peace of mind, and it was a kind of catharsis. Theatre of Dionysus. This image shows us a glimpse of the theatre of the time. The first plays were performed in the Theatre of Dionysus, built in the shadow of the Acropolis in Athens at the beginning of the 5th century BC. These theatres proved to be so popular that they spread all over Greece. Dithram, aesthetic hymn, a religious choric chant or song performed in rhythm with dancing. Dithrams were frenzied, impassioned choral lyrics and dance of ancient Greece honoring Dionysus. This choral dance was comprised of rapid movements of hands and body, hysterical screaming, and there was a cycle of lamenting and rejoicing. It was sung while dancing around altar by 50 men dressed in goatskins. These choral singers or dancers putting on masks and wearing the skin of he-goats to impersonate the god himself or his accompanying satyrs walked in procession. Choric hymns to Dionysus evolved to become early tragedy. Greek tragedies were known as goat songs, tragoedia. The prize in an Athenian play competition was a live goat. Sometimes the goat would be sacrificed and a god lament sung as the sacrifice was made. Others believed that in the plays themselves, men and women would wear goat costumes to dress up as satyrs, half goat beings that worshipped and surrounded Dionysus. This is how they used to dance and chant in ecstasy. Thespis. This is a sculpture of Thespis. He is remembered as the man who invented drama in about 534 BC. A man named Thespis who lived near Athens was the first to act out a song in the praise of Dionysus while the rest of the young men sang. It is unknown if Thespis was a playwright, an actor, or a priest, but he has been credited for creating the first actor. Thus, actors were also known as Thespians. While drunk and singing these songs of praise, worshippers also danced around an altar. This group of people were called a chorus. Thespis began to write down these songs and revise them so that they would tell a story. After a while, Thespis decided to have one member of the chorus step away from the others to play the part of a hero or god. Tragedy were entirely choral until Thespis introduced the prologue and the internal speeches. Thespis, the first to intervene choral song with an actor's speeches. Now I will define how Thespis defined theatre. Introduced an art of acting a part on stage, dramatic impersonation of another character other than yourself. Thespis introduced the idea of an actor or answerer who, instead of describing the god, pretending to be the god and held a dialogue with a chorus. Thespis took a fateful step. One member of the chorus performed a solo. This solo performer actually performed as if he were one of the gods or Dionysus himself. He performed speeches on stage using masks to distinguish between the different characters and began talking to chorus as an individual character. This led to the creation of the character. Masks were used to allow the characters to play more than one character. Thespis' style of drama became known as tragedy, that is also called goat song. Thespis walked around Athens pulling a handcart, setting up one-man plays where he showed the bad behavior of the man of the time. The first prize for tragedy went to Thespis. The creation of character in Greek theatre. The following playwrights contributed to the creation of character. Aeschylus introduced the idea of using a second and third actor, which allowed for interaction between the characters. The second character allowed the conflict to be shown on stage. Now that conflict was able to be seen on stage drama as we know it was born. Sophocles continued the creation of character by using the chorusless and creating more dialogue between the characters. Amphitheaters. Plays were performed in huge outdoor amphitheaters seating 20,000 people. The side of a mountain was scooped out into a ball shape, and tiers of stone seats were built into the hillside. No microphones, but one could hear a penny drop from all the way at the top. Major parts of the earliest Greek theatre: orchestra, meaning dancing space, the circular middle space of the theatre where the actors' chorus would sing and dance in a circular way. Next comes the theatron, that means seeing place, where attendees would sit to view the action. It was usually a part of hillside overlooking the orchestra. Parados, or the passageways, a long narrow passageway that actors used to make entrances and exits much like modern operas. Skene, tent, a building located behind the stage that was designed to look like a temple, palace, or other structure needed. It served as a prop, dressing room, and also allowed actors to make entrances and exits. Parts of a Greek theatre can be seen through this blueprint of the place. This is an image of the ancient amphitheater. Now I will discuss some of the special effects of the Greek theatre. There were no curtains, intermissions, lights, or microphones. Consequently, our scenes took place in daylight setting. All scenes, all scene changes had to be built into the actors' dialogue, and the chorus and actors had to have strong voices. Deus ex machina, meaning God from the machine, type of crane used for suspending figures who portrayed gods. This is ex machina, where we can see this crane like machine through which the god like figure is hanging, pretending to be flying or hanging in the air. Excyclema, movable or revolving platform. These were some of the special effects of the time. Actors. Actors were also called hypocrite. Hypocrite, Greek word for actor, means answerer, interpreter, or wearer of masks. Only 2 or 3 men would act in each play. Actor and dramatist originally the same. Playwright took leading role. A playwright used to take the lead role in a play. All actors were men. Young boys would play women, all amateur or non-professionals. Actors would play, uh, and there is a thing that men used to play women because it was considered undignified for women to appear on stage. Actors would play several roles just by changing masks. Actors were padded costumes, wigs, and high heeled boots to make them taller and give them added dignity and power, which added to the grandeur of the spectacle. Actors had to be able to speak in poetic language and sing using a loud and clear voice. Greek actors had to gesture grandly so that entire audience could see and hear the story. Finally, I will discuss costumes, masks in early Greek theatre. Actors wore long trailing robes with elaborate designs. Costumes were a very important factor of the production because they could determine the characters by gender or social status. In the early productions, actors used body painting, but slowly they started using animal skin, ears, even feathers. They used huge masks to distinguish between characters. These masks allowed men to impersonate women without confusion. Using masks allowed actors to play more than one character or role. The only costume change involved was adding a new mask, portrayed different emotions, and these masks were also used called persona. Different masks were used for comedy and tragedy, made out of linen, cork, or wood. These masks had very large mouthpieces that amplified the sound of the actors' voices and often had large eye openings as well. It is very pertinent to mention that there were no concept of mics at that time. These masks usually represented familiar characters that would be easily recognized by the audience. And they also used to prevent the audience from identifying the face of any character with one specific character. And they also helped the audience identify the sex, age, and social rank of the characters. Colors were used in masks as well to convey emotions. Wigs, which were attached to the masks, were also frequently added to help distinguish between characters. Today, the symbol of mask has come to symbolize theatre worldwide. These are some of the masks which were being used in the Greek theatre. Thank you very much.